Hey everybody, it's Missy Wolf, and I am here with comedian Jeff Allen. How are you?
I would never ask a person over 60 how they're doing because it's not a rhetorical question.
Okay.
I'll tell you how I'm doing. I just had surgery, so I'll just tell you about
Did
my.
you?
Oh, I did. It was a while, 7 weeks ago, I guess.
I just had surgery too. What'd
Oh,
you?
really?
Uh huh.
Oh, I had my intestine flipped, and
Ah.
yeah.
Ah.
And we were driving to the emergency room from Fairview to Williamson County Med, and we couldn't make it. We pulled into the firehouse, and I'm a functioning hypochondriac, so this was like one of my more glorified moments. But when they give you morphine and it doesn't touch the pain, that's when you it's like
Right.
this is serious
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah,
And,
I don't do morphine because it does nothing.
yeah, and I kept telling the doc every time I saw him, I go, "Here's the guy that saved my life." He goes, "It wasn't that serious." I go, "It is from here on out." I'm telling people I came close to dying.
There you go.
The doctor didn't think so, but as far as I was concerned, as I was writhing in pain,
Right?
I was dying. So
Yeah. No.
I was confessing the things that I didn't even do. I just wanted to make sure I had a clean slate.
You want to make everything right with the world.
With the world, the Vietnam War, all my fault. So,
Oh my gosh! Well, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you got through
I'm
that.
back to working out again, which is nice. And
Good.
everything is good.
That's awesome. So let's talk about you and your decision to be a comedian because I often wonder, I'm not funny. I make other people laugh not knowingly,
Yeah, I
but
have a son like that, yeah.
I'm not funny. When did you discover you had that talent?
I don't know if you discover it. I just, my brother was a musician, and he had a band, and they were, so a couple of comics opened for him. One had a comedy team, and I was probably 19, maybe, and I remember thinking, boy, I'd love to be able to do that, but where? How do you do it? And I was working for a jewelry company, and we were doing a jewelry show at a hotel, and someone said, "Hey, there's this comedy club around the corner." I go, "Comedy club?" And that was August, and it took me about 3 months. I was there every night
Wow.
to work the courage up to do an open mic, and it was Thanksgiving. I just had my 40th year Thanksgiving night.
Wow.
So I've been in it since 1978. But those 3 months, and they knew it because the comics would go, "Hey man, you going up tonight? You going up tonight?" "No, I don't want to do this. I don't want to." And then finally, and I don't know what, I was pretty trashed, and that was Thursday night because it was Thanksgiving night. I left my parents' house, and then Sunday night was another open mic night, and I went back in sober, and the huge, big black MC comes over to me. He goes, "Man, you have to make some sense tonight. We're still trying to figure out what you said Thursday night." I had no clue. I went up, my first line ever on stage, I looked out into the crowd, and because of the lights, I said, "Holy, I can't see a thing." That was my opening line.
Oh, wow.
It was the first thing I ever said on stage. I can't see a thing. And anyway, it was downhill from there. But anyway, my wife said to me once, "What made you go back?" I go, I knew I could do this. And I was 2 years into it when the club owner came to me and said, "You'll never make a living at this."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Thanks. There isn't anybody who's ever made anything out of their life that didn't have some jerk in it that told them they
Right.
wouldn't. So you're my jerk." I'll tell that
There you
story,
go.
and I'm still telling it 40 years later.
So thank you, Mr. Jerk. 'Cause
That's right.
This guy
Yeah.
proved you wrong.
Right, exactly.
I love it. Now, does your wife ever get scared that she's going to be in your material?
She's in the material. All she ever asks is the check clears. Is the check clear? Because when I started working in churches, when I was 40, I made a commitment to Christ, and was still doing casinos and nightclubs and stuff. And I was in Vegas actually, 2001, when the towers went down.
Oh, wow.
And Tammy called me, and she was, of course, like a lot of people, just freaking out. And I couldn't get home. I had to rent a car, and but they wouldn't let me drop it off. And club owner made us work, And anyway, came home and told my Jewish manager. I said, "I was wondering if churches would hire me." He goes, "You're asking me," So we were the blind leading the blind. And I remember putting it out there that I wanted to. We were sending things to churches to see if they would hire me. And when your resume's 19 years of comedy clubs and casinos, and they kind of hesitate to give you the pulpit for an hour, So I think I did one church the first year, so I was still going in and out of Atlantic City and Vegas. But anyway, it switched. I got hooked up with Bill Gaither, who I didn't know. I never heard of him, but apparently he was the Elton John of gospel music, and gave me some credibility and stuff. But when I started working in those venues, they were put off by how hard I hit my wife in the show. And I remember I was doing a convention or something, big, huge, like thousands of people, and they came to me after my first set and said, tomorrow when you do your show, could you mention you love your wife? I go, they don't know that, I was telling the producer before the show. I said I could stand on stage for an hour and tell you what all the nice things about Tammy that I love. You'd think it's nice, but you wouldn't laugh a whole lot.
Exactly.
When the goal is to get people to laugh, you talk about the things that annoy you about her, And so anyway, that afternoon, I go up on stage, do my little thing, and I'm ready to leave, and I remember, I got to tell him I love my wife. So I walk back out, and I go, by the way, I want to tell you, God bless me with the most amazing, and I start weeping. It overwhelmed me. And I get off and my wife goes, what the hell was that? I go, I don't know. I had no clue. It was just, and I started doing that after every set. I would take 3 or 4 minutes and talk about, what a beautiful woman she is and, how blessed I am to have her. And every night I would get choked up and, so I'd talk to my wife on the phone. She'd go, did you go Jimmy Swaggart again tonight?
I love it.
It became a joke. But I said, I'm not feigning it. I'm not, So there was something in there that maybe I needed to get out. But I'm over it now. It's been 20 plus years. So I can talk about it without weeping. So
Nice. Now you guys have grown children, right?
We have 4 grandbabies. Yeah.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
That's got to be a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, my son asked me recently what was so special about the grandchildren, and I said, how old's your daughter? He says 5. I said 5, and I said, you're 35. I said, for 5 years I haven't worried 1 minute, not 1 second about that little girl, but I still worry about you 35 years in. And what's the first thing I ask you? He says, how's the job? And I said, you know why I ask that? Because I know where you're moving if you lose that job. And you ain't coming here, pal. I said, I kind of like my house the way it is. So.
I like being able to give the grandkids back at the end of the day.
That's it, baby. And it's text. We just text, it's time. That's all we text. It's time. And they come. They live a half a mile away. So we'll get calls from our daughter-in-law. Could you take her for a couple hours? And my wife, unfortunately, we didn't live near family. So she had them 2 boys while I was out on the road all the time. And one of my sons, they both lived nearby, and one of them was thinking of moving. And Tammy sat down with them and said, you may not appreciate us, but take it from someone who didn't have grandparents nearby, how important it is. So think twice before you pack up and go. If it's a great job, and it wasn't. There was nothing other than they just wanted to get away from Tennessee and go down to Florida.
Yeah.
So anyway, they rethought about it and they stayed. So we were happy.
I am so glad that they stayed because I did not have my parents near me. They were a couple hours away from me when I, was raising my children. And now, they just moved from California to be with us in Tennessee. And it's been the greatest it's just the greatest ever. They helped me with getting the kids to school and back. But up until then, it's like I didn't realize how hard it was and how much I missed them because I didn't have any of that help when the kids were like really little.
Yeah,
so
Tam didn't have it at all. And again, we lived Boston, New York, Phoenix. Her family was Ohio.
Wow.
And my parents, they didn't get along with my wife. It's interesting when my sons got married. I sat my wife down. I said, take it from me. I'm a man who married, a woman. And she will dictate whether or not we see our grandchildren. So you bite your tongue.
Yep.
And you kiss her backside. You make my daughter-in-law the most important thing in your life, that they come over here and they enjoy it. And they had their moments. My sons both married strong-willed women. I married a strong-willed woman. And but so far, we're hanging in there.
Okay.
Because my parents didn't get along with my wife at all, and my wife told me I'm not going over there. So, if I'm home for 2 days, I'm gonna spend it with my wife and kids. I'm not gonna, because we were a couple hours from my parents, I think, in Arizona at one point. But anyway,
Well, see, and that's real life though, and it happens in so many homes, but not everybody will talk about that. And I'm like, but you need to, and you need to talk to your kids about that because it's huge, and it does happen, and it's hurtful. And if
Well, I got a good friend in Knoxville who didn't see his grandchild for 3 years because the daughter-in-law didn't like him. And I took note of that. I said, yeah, it's hard to not be a parent,
Right.
and at one point I think one of the complaints our daughter-in-law had was, I feel like I'm coming to my parents' house when I come over here. And we finally had a nice discussion about it and go, okay, well, we just won't give you any more advice. And I'm okay with that because,
yeah,
I mean, believe me, if you look at my life and the arc of it, I have no credibility. I shouldn't give anybody any advice.
well, but what you just said was giving a lot of people advice, and it's great. And I think you need to keep doing that because too many people don't think about those things and the consequences of, in-laws not getting along and how it affects those grandbabies because they're the ones that miss out. They don't get to see their grandparent, and it's
they love us. We
See?
took our granddaughter to see her favorite video was river dance.
okay.
So they came to TPAC, and we didn't tell her. She was about 4, and she was going to a little dance class every Monday night. And so anyway, we take her in, and just looking at her face when those princesses came out, and the jaw drops, and it was just priceless, precious. It really was.
that.
And the next day, my son took her to dance class, and he texts us. He goes, "Teacher says Evelyn's a little tappy."
Oh, that's so cute.
And she was just those are moments that I missed with my kids.
Yeah.
One, I was gone a lot, and two, it's different as a parent.
Right.
I'm more just into her joy. And then like you said, when they get crabby or whatever, and text, it's time.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time. I love that. I love that. I get to send mine to my mom's house when I've had enough. I'm like, go visit your grandma.
Yeah.
Go over there. It's just right next door.
Yeah, Mimi loves you.
Yep. She loves you. She'll feed you. She will feed you.
Yeah, our granddaughter immediately goes into the pantry. And my son married a Minnesota granola cruncher. I mean, the list of
Okay.
things we are not allowed to feed our granddaughter. And at first my wife goes, "Oh, that's a bunch of," I said, "There we go. Now we're getting into this, they're not going to come over here thing."
Right,
You
right.
feed her. And it was funny because the first day she comes over with green beans, fried green beans. She goes, "Look, Mimi, French fries." And I go, "Boy, are you in for a disappointment." First time she goes to school and pulls out a green bean, "You want some French fries?" These kids are going to go, "French fries? Those are disgusting. Here's a real French fry."
Right.
And
right.
that's it. It's over.
Yep.
Yeah, the lie has been exposed, and now you got to explain yourself. What other lies have you told me?
Exactly. I'm going to throw my sister under the bus right now. But my sister tried that nonsense with no sugar, no this, no that for the kids. And they're literally, they go to grandma's or they go to Auntie Mo's. Yep, that's what they're getting. They're getting all that sugar. Because, and I'm sorry, Jen. I'm sorry. I was a bad sister.
My son never had sugar, my youngest. When I married Tammy, she had a 2-year-old. She was a single mom when I met her. And so Aaron was, I think, 3 when we got married. So he was already gone. She was giving him donuts and whatever. But when Ryan was born, I said to Tam, the sugar's bad. He doesn't need it. He doesn't know it. He doesn't know any better.
Right.
So he had plain Cheerios with bananas in it and stuff like that. So the first time we visited my parents, I went golfing with my dad. I come home. My son's face is buried in a Jethro Bodine bowl full of Cocoa Puffs, man. This kid, and he never went back to a banana and Cheerios again. And I told my wife, my mom, I said, "Mom, the kid does it." She goes, "Oh, you used to love those." And I go, "Yeah, and look how I'm almost diabetic. I have pancreatic meltdowns. I got, Yeah, well, he loves them. He'd like it more if you squirted Hershey syrup in the milk. Just give him that. Give him what he wants. Cover up donuts, throw it in. I mean, come on. He didn't know any better. Well, anyway, after that, we tried to give him, no. Shove it away.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Once they realize there's something really tasty out there,
And that's what we did. We have gummies, which are, anyway, we
love
try. We try. But we're not giving them green beans and calling them French fries.
No.
That's almost sacrilegious.
I should probably tattle on myself, but I wanted to get my kids to eat tofu, and they would not eat tofu.
Yeah.
And so, I was just trying something new, so I put turmeric in it to turn it yellow, and then I fried them up in little cubes, and I called them Chinese potatoes.
Yeah.
And they bought it for years and
Yeah.
years and years. But they liked him, and I seasoned him well. And
Our kids would only eat broccoli if it was called trees and cheese.
Trees, yes. Eat your trees.
Eat your trees and cheese.
Yep,
Man.
yep.
But my son, when he was little, he would look at food and go, I can't like that. It was like there was some kind of list that every kid has, you know. I can't like that. I mean, it's not like I'm not going to try it. Like, you know, you look at it, I can't like that.
Yeah, their mind is just made up, and there's no changing it. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. So your kids, I mean, you've had a lot of experiences. You're a grandparent now. I heard that both of your boys were in the military, or just one? Just one.
Yeah.
Okay,
My oldest son.
How was that for you, and how did your wife handle that?
Well, initially it was the funniest story about that when he went over to Iraq. The difference is, to back up, I did shows for the military on an aircraft carrier in the Indian Ocean. Mm-hmm. We had just invaded Afghanistan, so they were running night ops off of that carrier. And I brought my son with me. He was in high school, and he was thinking about joining the military. I thought, boy, it'd be a great trip. You know, 3 weeks in Bahrain and be around the military and stuff. And I kind of got an idea of the sacrifice that that they make. And one of the things that they told us, I said, you know, how is it? Because, you know, my son's thinking of joining. Right. They said, well, it's different than, say, Vietnam because of the social media and the media. I mean, you can emails and we FaceTime. So when Aaron went over to Iraq, at least once a week we were in touch with him at FaceTime or phone calls and stuff. And then he went 10 days without contact. And that freaked Tammy out. So she calls my youngest son up and says, by the way, is your brother on online gaming out of Iraq? And he says, yeah, every night he's online. She says, what's his screen name? So she gets his screen name and she types in, hey, Aaron, this is Mommy, call me. So all these men from around the world are just chiming in. Hey, Mommy, nice to hear from you, Mommy. Hey, Mommy, Aaron, call your Mommy. This big bad soldier.
Oh, my God.
So anyway, he calls us like immediately. He gets offline, calls the house, and he says, don't ever do that to me again. She says, don't ever go 10 days without telling me. He goes, Mom, I'm not infantry. You know, I'm just changing out the black boxes on the choppers and stuff, so I'm not in it.
Right.
Well, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Friendly fire is friendly fire, and you know, it doesn't matter. But she when he came home for R&R and then left, she cried all the way home from the airport, and I cry more than she does. I found out, you know, I just went and got tested for low T. I mean, it's like I have no T. It's like, you know, it's like I told my sons, it explains all the HGTV, you know. It's like, they told me I was elevated in estrogen. They did. And I said, my Tammy looks at me, she goes, that explains a lot. I mean, my granddaughters come in and I just start tearing up, and it's embarrassing. I mean, I'm not trying to do this. So anyway, I've gotten some testosterone, so we'll see. I'll probably just grow hair on my shoulders or something.
Hey, whatever it takes.
Whatever, I don't know.
Whatever.
So we'll see.
Oh, my gosh. So you have to check back in with us and let us know how that goes.
Yeah. But Aaron did 6 years with the 101st. And the funny story about that, he moved back home to reacclimate, is what he said. And we were about 19 months into that. And reacclimating thing. And my wife and him were butting heads. I mean, they were just... Again, I travel, so I you know, she's there all the time. So she gets all over him one day about the oil change on his car, and she said, "We're not buying you a new car if the engine fries and all of that." And anyway, that was like at 3 PM. So 6, we can't find him for dinner. So she says, "Call him, find out where he's at." So I call him. I says, "Where you at?" He goes, "I'm in Atlanta." I go, "What are you doing in Atlanta?" He said, "I'm running away from home." I go, "You're 27. You can't run away from home at 27. It's against the rules. You're getting on with your life, and we're proud of you." So anyway, I go out in the garage. I tell Tam he's gone. She goes, "What do you mean he's gone?" I said, he said he left a note in the basement. I read the note. It's time. He wants to go. He's going to go down and live with an Army buddy and become an adult. And Tammy starts crying. I go, "What are you crying about? This is your dream." I go, "I don't even know what is it?" She says, "Well, I don't know. I just want it to be this way." I go, "What way did you want it?"
Right.
Yeah. He got PO'd and left. So great.
Well, I mean, if it was just all cookies and cream, then he'd have been there for how long?
Well, that was it. And I told him once. I said, I went downstairs and specifically said to you, I want you to know that I'm aware that I'm enabling you. I'm keeping you an infant. So when the guilt of that overrides the joy of having you around, I'll just throw your crap on the front lawn. I mean, that's when I'll have had enough.
Yeah.
You'll know I've had enough when I just walk down, gather all your stuff up, and throw it in the driveway. And then when you get home, you go, what's that? Well, you're moving out, you know. And a good friend of mine told me when he was 25, he was living with his parents. And one day he comes home from wherever, and his dad says, get in the car, man, I'm going to take you somewhere. So he takes him, and they open up the door of an apartment, and he walks in, he goes, what's this? He goes, this is your new home. Your mother and I have paid first and last month. You're on your own. Have a nice night. And he left. And he said, I stewed for about 3 days. I would sit in my house, and then it hit me. This is mine. I can do whatever I want, you know? Yeah. And anyway, so he's been on his own since. I said, my parents brainwashed me. I heard my entire life, when you're 18 and you're on your own.
Yep. That's what I
every
tell my
complaint
kids.
I had, when you're 18 and you're on your own.
Yeah.
So I just assumed you left the house at 18.
Yeah. I bought my first house when I was 20.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I never had any money.
Well, I had to get out of my house. I'm sorry, Mom, Dad, again. Love you.
Right.
I needed out. My mom and I would butt heads all the time, and I was like, I can't. I had to get out. So I worked a lot of jobs so that I could make that happen. But it was also in a time when it was affordable, and you know, you could do that. Nowadays, I don't think.
Well, they call it adultering now.
Yes.
The millennials are adultering, and I think that's funny. I really do. I don't know.
I think a lot of things about the millennials. I think a lot of things.
Well, my sons are like Gen X, and I told them, you know, there's baby boomers, and then Gen X, and then millennials. And I said, Gen X are kind of like a middle child, you know. Mm-hmm. Nobody thinks of them ever. You know? It's always the baby or the oldest, you know. So, yeah, I just started a thing on my Facebook called the Millennial Minute, and I give advice to millennials. And the latest was that as they get older, as they're approaching middle age now, a lot of them are like in their, you know, close to 30, and they're getting up there, you know. And I told them that the thundering hooves that they hear coming up behind them is middle-aged and wrinkles. So I showed them all the creams that I use on my
Oh, that's
face.
funny.
Yeah, like 5 different ones. I said, well, this one was $120. I said, I don't even know what it is. It's volumizing cream. I said, imagine this face if it wasn't volumized, you know. And then I took another one. It was a day cream and a night cream. I go, apparently wrinkles respond differently to day and night. These are all things my wife gets me, you know, because she says, you know, you gotta keep up, you know. And I said, you know, I could always just go the plastic surgery route. She goes, over my dead body.
I know.
And we're not going to do that. But I say that, but 10 years from now. I just wonder if a lot of them, if they have friends that or is it just a point where you go too far and it's too late?
That was what I loved about the bit that I heard of yours earlier today about, you know, do you not have friends? Like when you saw the guy on the bicycle, right, with the bicycle shorts.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I think those things all the time, but back to the plastic surgery and the people with their friends or lack of, you can still tell a person's age by their neck. And just because your face is skin tight, if you haven't done anything about your neck and your chest, you just look really silly. I'm sorry, guys, but don't do it. Don't do it.
No, I hope my wife would never let me. I mean, and I believe me, she's never holds back on. I always told her, I said, whatever gene tact is, you didn't get it. It's just not in you. I mean, she really is just straight. And then she looks at people when they react, and she goes, "What? You know."
Yep.
I just okay. You know, as her husband, he's sitting. Okay.
Do you enjoy watching other people's reactions to her?
No, I get uncomfortable. I hate conflict. I'm a baby, and conflict in our home was pretty settled by my dad. If you talk back, he threw you against the wall. So that was it. That was it. Yep. That was the end of the discussion. So I hate conflict. I have a fight or flight response to conflict. So I'm the peacemaker, and they say, you know, and so anyway, when you get married, you got to have conflict, you know. And I used to say that when we went to marriage counseling. And it was very funny. We went to marriage counseling because we were in debt, and the stress of the debt was causing a lot of problems. And here we are spending $100 a week, the money we didn't have to learn how to argue, to resolve conflict. That was why we were there, was to learn how to resolve conflict. And we found out that shut up is not a healthy way to end a discussion, because it didn't work anyway.
No.
Shut up. I'm not going to shut up. Don't tell me to shut up.
Exactly.
Shut up. Don't tell me to shut up.
Exactly. It's like if somebody wants you to not be grouchy, they need to not tell you that you're grouchy.
Well, that's it. That's it.
Right?
Yeah. What's
Tommy?
wrong with you?
Right, Tommy?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's wrong with you?
Uh-huh.
What's wrong with you?
Yes.
I just give me 5 minutes.
I know.
That's all I ask. I mean, I would go to another room, and I used to say that I hated conflict, and apparently God wanted me to have conflict because He gave me a woman who just relishes it. And I'd go to another room. I'd just go, give me, and then she'd be right behind me, following me. I go, what are you doing? I just asked you to give me 5 minutes because I'm gonna, say things.
Yes.
That, and the other night we got into on our way to the movies. We have a dance. I don't want to go into the dance, but it's. I'm supposed to be writing a book, and I play a lot of golf, and I don't write enough. So anyway, I was going to go play golf Saturday, and we were out to the movies on Friday. And I said, I'm playing golf tomorrow. She goes, so how's the book coming along? And that always starts a fight, always.
Always.
And I got out of the car, and I said, I cannot wait to get this book finished because I know the skies will open up, and the heavens will come down, and I will be at peace. And she goes, watch it. Watch it. You're going down there. You're going to say something, and it's just going to ruin the whole night. So I bite my tongue, And we were holding hands, and then the hands separate, and then we get the distance apart to go in and see Bohemian Rhapsody with.
Nice.
And I was waiting to see. I couldn't wait to see the movie, and I'm seething because I wanted to play golf like a child, like a kid, So anyway, I text my friends, I'm not playing tomorrow. Apparently, I have things to do.
I love that. I love that you're just honest and real and fun, and you don't hold back. It's fun. It's exciting.
Yeah. Anyway, it isn't worth it. I mean, somebody said after 32 years, what have you learned? I go, it really isn't. You're going to have disruptions, but really, when you sit down and go, what is this about? All right, fine, I don't care.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, all kidding aside, when, there are those moments where you're mad or you're grumpy or grouchy or whatever, they're going to go away. They're going to pass.
Well, it'll pass. And the funniest thing about it to me, early in our marriage, we would have a great night. The kids would be in bed. We'd be cuddling on the couch and everything, and then we'd go to bed. And next morning we'd wake up, and she would be just, this house is a pigsty. I said, what happened? In the last 8 hours, what happened? Did someone come in while we were sleeping and mess? Because it wasn't a pigsty last night, and it wasn't a priority. So what? Please. And you realize that this is the ebb and flow, and I have my, I go to bed, I'm fine. I wake up some days, I'm just really crabby.
Yeah. That also comes from bad dreams where you're mad at your spouse in your dream, and then you wake up mad.
Yeah. She threw her wedding rings at me one night. Woke me up. I'm sound asleep. She's peeling her wedding ring off, and she hits me in the head with them. And I'm going, finally, what's going on? She goes, I just dreamt you had an affair. So? I didn't mean, I'm laying right here. What were you doing? Anyway, that's reality.
I'm guilty.
Yeah, my favorite one.
I've so done that.
When she started menopause, and it's funny, but it isn't. I wake up, and she's in the middle of the room, and with scissors cutting the bottom of her flannel pajamas. And I'm like, because it's night, and what are you doing? She says, if I ever meet the man that invented this material, I'm going to stab him in the eye. Because it was all sticking to her, and she's just, it doesn't, so.
Oh my
poor
gosh.
thing. That's when I told the kids, Mom's going through some serious stuff.
Yeah.
So just give her some space. My favorite story, my manager, his wife, Tammy went through breast cancer at 38, and the chemo knocked her into menopause at 39 or 40, really young. So all my friends, they didn't understand, what was going on. So anyway, like a decade later, my manager calls me and he goes, well, it's starting. I go, what do you mean? He goes, my wife just called, or my son just called. He says, Mom's locked herself in her bedroom. She won't come out. Who's going to feed us? So,
it's like an episode of that 70s show.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
wow.
He said, leave your mother alone. She's going through some stuff. So just give her space.
Yeah, definitely.
I used to tell my kids, if Mom's sweating, it's not from jogging. So some slack.
Okay, I'm guilty of that too then.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I'm not a jogger either, and that day wouldn't be pretty.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, my gosh. Well, what do you have going on, and where can fans find you? Because
JeffAllenComedy.com.
Okay.
Don't go to JeffAllen.com. At last I checked, it was a porn portal.
Okay, don't go there, guys.
Don't go there. So
don't
you've
go
been
there.
warned, and I don't know if it still is, because somebody told me about it. I was touring with the Gaithers, and they said your website is a nasty place. I go, what? And they told me, we went to JeffAllen.com. I go, no, it's JeffAllenComedy.com. So anyway, when I got in the hotel room, I typed in, and it was a portal for all these porn sites.
Oh my gosh.
Said, well,
okay, it's JeffAllenComedy.com, you guys.
Yeah. And so that, and then all the Instagram is, J. Allen Comedy or whatever, and Facebook.
Okay.
I'm going through some issues with my Facebook page. We tried to merge 2 pages, and now Facebook has locked me out. And it's been like a month now. I can't.
Oh, wow.
Everybody else can get on my Facebook page but me. My manager, all the other people I've hired, and my wife. I can't get on it. As soon as I type in my information, it goes, you've been locked out. I have no clue. So anyway, but I'll be at the Franklin Theater in April.
Mm-hmm.
They can get tickets now. I think you just go to Franklin Theater and buy them. And
which is a great venue, the Franklin Theater. Oh my gosh.
It's one of my favorite places. Mm-hmm. It really is. It's I think 280 seats or something.
Yeah.
And it's great for comedy.
And the green room for the artists is amazing. Yeah. I love it. I love it there. I'm sorry that you guys
Plus
don't
eat
to go to the green room.
When we go down, there's some great restaurants down there.
Have you been to the Mellow Mushroom down there?
No.
That's a really good pizza place down there.
Oh.
It's really, really good.
Yeah, my wife is low carb in it. So it
I
used to be if I had
too,
vodka on my breath or those little white crusty things from the drugs, that would cause problems. Now she smells cinnamon on me. She goes, "You've been eating carbs." You caught me. I can't. I think Cinnabon should be a cologne. I really do.
Right.
I do. I really do. Lard, and cinnamon should be a cologne.
Absolutely. All right. Well, everybody at home, you know where to find him. Go to JeffAllenComedy.com. And until next time, we'll see you soon.